I thought the first step in moving your career forward at all is obviously meeting people who can give you a job, people who can give you a raise, people who can help you make more money or move your career forward. So that was basically obviously a real critical step if you're looking for a job, but as the other side of the presentations is also the bedrock of your career. So as you move your career forward, you need to have a network of decision makers in your Rolodex. So this is what I'll just quickly cover. And basically what I'll do is I'll cover this from 7 to 7:30. At 7:30, we have an amazing guest speaker who's, hey, how are you? Thanks for coming. Yogesh Mehta, who was so broke, he was actually sleeping on the floor. He didn't have any place to live. He had a wife and a young child. And then even when he got his own place, he's so broke they cut off his electricity. He really had a tough time. And today, obviously, his business makes over $1 billion a year. It's Petrochem. It's the largest chemical trading company in all of the Middle East. So it's quite an exciting story. But I'll just be looking at these various topics here to get you guys going. And why do you want to have a real power group, or have a list of decision makers? And this is really why we're really starting. These are some of the key reasons. And it doesn't matter if you have a job now or you're actually looking for a job. Either way, the process I'm going to walk you through is something you should do anyway. And I can tell you that if you're a top performer or you're in 1% of the market, you will have this exercise done. So if I go to someone who's actually working, who's highly paid, who's paid in the top 1% of their market, they will be able to walk through the exercise that I'm showing you today with their eyes closed. And really the critical 2 words, does anyone know what the 2 most important words on this whole page are? They're just right down here at the bottom. It's power network. Okay, this is what you need. Whether you're looking for a job or you have a job, you need to create a power network. These are people who obviously hold the power within your industry. These are the people who, when they make decisions, resources are moved, resources are allocated. People are hired and fired by people within the power network. This is really the critical thing. We are setting out to create a power network. The first thing you need to know is, who are the people in the power network? Who are the most powerful people within your industry? And so one of the biggest mistakes people make when they're doing their job search is they apply to a bunch of different industries and they start doing a spaghetti offense. But the biggest opportunities in the market are given to those people who are the most focused. Whether it's a businessman or Olympic athlete, or whenever you see anyone achieving anything in the top 1% of any industry or segment, it's because they're hyper-focused in that area. So the first thing you need to make is a target list. And I think any target list has four parts to it, and you need to make this within an Excel sheet, okay? So a lot of people just go organically through their job search or apply online and they put things. No, what we want to do is we want to have an Excel sheet, and you want to have four distinct sections to it, and they all work together, and when you put them together, it creates a synergy. So the first one is your direct companies, the exact. So I'm in executive search, so I would want to make a list of all the executive search companies that are there. My secondary list would be related companies. So as a headhunter, I could work internally as internal recruitment. So then I could look at all the the largest companies in the UAE with big recruitment teams. And then your third and fourth list. Your third list is your events, your trade shows, your symposiums, anywhere where you can get face-to-face with the people who are on your primary list. On the first one, that's where you want to make sure you have a list, because what happens to a lot of job seekers or a lot of people who are in the market, they miss the critical events. And this is a global list. If you want to make it in education business, what's the biggest education trade show in the world? Is it in London? Is it in New York? Is it in Las Vegas? Take the time, invest in yourself, and go to these events. Okay, so you should have a list of all the big events. And then the fourth one is your magazines, trade publications, media, your LinkedIn groups, wherever information is being exchanged about your profession. just by picking up the trade publications. For example, if I read Gulf Business, Banker Middle East, and Islamic Banker, if I just read that for 3 months, I'll have a really good idea of who the top bankers are in the region, and that will all feed into my first list. So these are most people when they start out, they won't be so comprehensive. So you're making a targeted list focused in one area with 4 sections, okay? This is exactly the same tools that the top headhunters in the world will use when they're approaching candidates within a segment. So this is a proven methodology. And if you're regimented, this will yield you the most opportunities rather than applying to 100 jobs across 15 different sectors. Getting to know your sector is the first thing. So I'm just going to give you a quick example. I just picked learning and development or training and development because there was a person who attended one of my curriculums who had an issue with this. So just for fun, I just picked, let's walk through creating a target list really quickly. If I wanted to get a job in training and development. So my first part of my list would be local companies with large training and development programs. My secondary list would be training and development consultants. And then 3, I want to pick up all the learning and development trade publications and subscribe to them. And then 4, I want to make sure what the live events or the trade shows are. I might have flipped those 2 at the end. But it really sounds very simple, but I can tell you whenever I find a candidate who comes to me and says, oh, I've been looking for a job for 5 weeks or 8 weeks and I can't find a job, and I say, okay, show me your Excel sheet, show me your 4 lists, they don't do the work, okay? This is a research thesis that you're actually putting together on a particular market and understanding who the players are. Because the North Star principle, if you want to get a job, you need to meet your new boss. And what do people do? They apply online and they go talk to headhunters, and neither of those people can give you a job. Right? So you need to be meeting with someone who can give you a job. So this list is actually going to unearth those decision makers for you. So here's your first list, local companies. So how do I do that? I just go on Google. I go awards for learning and development, and then the companies start coming up. I go best learning and development company program in Dubai. So quickly you can see, Deloitte and ICAW gave an award for training and development. British American Tobacco has won. It just really using Google, I populate the list. A lot of people don't take the time to do that. So you want to just basically flush out a list. The other thing that I would look at is what are the top 20 learning and development companies in the world, and out of those top 20, which brands are here in Dubai? And you can do the same thing for investment banking. You can do the same thing for executive search. You do the same thing for any sector that you're in. What are the top 20 players? Which of those top 20 are here? And then also look at the local market and who's the top. So just by doing some basic research, I came up with this list. It doesn't mean that British American Tobacco is the best. I just put them in alphabetical order. But all this means from my 15 or 20 minutes of internet research, I can tell you British American Tobacco has a huge learning and development program, as does Dubai Duty Free, et cetera, et cetera. So now you have your target list of companies. The question is, how do I meet the decision makers? So this was just a real exercise I just walked through. So you just go on LinkedIn. You can obviously find the guy really quick. For me, the first thing I want to look at when I look at the guy's LinkedIn is I look at how many connections he has. Not because I want to talk to someone who has a lot of connections, but I want to make sure that he's active on his LinkedIn site. So you can see that Guy here has 500. He's very active. The second thing is you can see I don't really know him. He's a secondary connection. But the actual thing I'm looking for is a connection or nexus with the guy. So you can see I'm Canadian, and so is Guy. So and especially I'm from Toronto and he's from Montreal. So maybe it might be a negative. You may not get along, but I don't know. It depends on how he feels about it. I've never spoken to Guy, but if you were from Montreal or you were from this area or you start to look at his profile and you make a connection and then you reach out to him. So really quickly, I list out all the other companies and then I list out who are the people there. And a lot of people, for some reason, they don't understand this last column, which is the phone numbers. The telephones still work in the 21st century. You can pick up the phone and you can call the person, and you can go meet with them. So if you're spending 2 or 3 weeks sending out online applications, you're just not going to get a job. Your CV is obsolete if you don't know that right now. Your CV is completely obsolete. For any job, if British American Tobacco puts a job out for a learning and development manager, they're going to get about 850 applications. Does anyone think that that's not true? You'll get 850. Who has the time to read 850 CVs? They don't. So you need to get yourself in front of the decision maker. And the rules of the game have changed. It's actually more jobs in the market, but it's tougher actually to get a job. You actually are going to need to get in front of these people. So you need to call them up and meet them. So let's take the next person, Nick Brewer, right? Let's say I wanted to meet with Nick Brewer. On every, any of the big companies, they have a section that basically says general inquiries. Do you have any general questions? So you can fill out that box and ask for Nick Brewer's mobile number. You can ask for Nick Brewer's email number. You can call the switchboard and ask to speak to him. You can, and within about 5, 10, 15, or 20 minutes, you will have at least his mobile number. And when you call the person up, you're having problems with this, are you? You can ask me questions. I'm here for you guys. So. Okay, they won't. So 70% of the time when you ask for someone's mobile number, you won't get it. But if you've ever heard of a lion, we were talking about lions earlier. A lion is supposed to be one of the most sophisticated killing machines on the planet, one of the best predators. What do you think its kill rate is when it goes in to go jump on a wildebeest? It literally only is successful 30% of the time. So, that's actually a pretty good ratio. If you're getting 30%, it's good enough for a lion. It should be good enough for you. But you can definitely get the email. Do you agree? You can get the email. Okay. So what you guys do is, so we agree you can all get the email address. And I've been on the receiving end of a lot of these emails. They're very bad. So don't write dear sir or dear ma'am or I would like to work in your prestigious organization or I would like a job, because they're just going to delete your email. We're not going to read it. Okay, so here's an example of how I would approach writing an email to Nick Brewer, okay? First of all, I'm writing why I'm excited about the company. I'm putting some specific information. Again, remember, we need to be focused on an industry. So do you know your space? In the 21st, it's the death of the generalist. You can't be a generalist anymore. You have to be a mile deep and an inch wide. You're going to have to know your sector. So when I call him, when I send him a message, why am I impressed with him? What are his results? 46 people out of the original 100 who joined his company 30 years ago still work for him. That's amazing. I would love to talk to him about that. That's really an amazing accolade. So I'm genuinely excited about that, okay? And then the next thing, I start putting in my USP. I made this up. I didn't actually go to this conference. But remember our 4 lists. You need to get into your sector, and you should be going to these events. Even if you don't have a job, even if you're a student or whatever, invest in yourself. Get on the plane, go there. You get on a plane and go on vacation. Go to this event. Invest in your career. Get some, and then at the end, I'm saying I want to share with you some of the world-leading strategies I learned. And you could be the most junior person in the world who just attended a seminar, took notes, and you want to share that with them. You don't have to have actually executed these strategies, okay? It's just I want to give you some information. And as a senior person, you're always looking for intellectual arbitrage. You're always looking to get that one leg up in your next meeting. So these are basically the 3 steps, okay? Nowhere in there am I saying I'm looking for a job, okay? It's already given, because if he's hiring, he's going to automatically assess you. He's going to automatically assess you for the job. So a lot of people go in and just say, dear Mr. X, I would like my profile to be reviewed for a position in your company. Just don't do that. That's not going to work. Here's your options for having a meeting with a decision maker. So I often meet with people who have gone 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks without getting a job, and they haven't, they've done 2 things: applied online and met with headhunters, okay? I wrote this list out in about 30 seconds, 35 seconds. I just wrote down whatever. All the ways you have to ask for a meeting, okay? Ask for a meeting with Nick. Phone, email, general inquiry, okay? You have so many different ways of doing it. Send them tickets to the game. Have a seats beside them. Do whatever you can. Go to the office yourself. If I have a CEO who doesn't want to meet with me, I just walk right down without a meeting. And I say, I'm here. I want to have a chat with Mr. X because I have a value-added proposition. What's your value add to the organization? Is it that strong? And it doesn't matter how junior you are or how senior you are. If you're going to be working in a call center entry level, what are the top 3 things that call center people need to do? What are the 3 biggest mistakes call center people do? And what are those? So this is another North Star principle. Whenever you're approaching somebody, okay, remember the first one? Does anyone remember what the first North Star principle was? Meet your new boss, right? If you're going through this process and you've gone a week or 2 weeks without meeting your new boss, you're missing the point, okay? So you've got to meet your new boss. The target list is going to help you do that. The second one, make a deposit, not a withdrawal. When you go and talk to this person, be making a deposit. Be contributing to their success. Don't try to, take from them. This will help them engage with you, okay? And the second one is demonstrate your value, right? Demonstrate your value. Don't ask them to talk about your profile or that you want a job. This is the section 2 would be your consulting firm. So you have your primary list, which was the one we just went through, and this is how you make your secondary list. So to do this, here's just an example. I showed you how to use Google, the first one. The second one is just looking at the top 20 firms and then which ones are in Dubai. So here's basically a list of the top 20 learning and development firms. There's 4 of them that are in Dubai. Then I make a list here with all the local ones and the multinationals put together. And then I just walk through the list the same way. Okay, the first one, maybe the coloring of the slide isn't that good, I apologize. But the first company, I research the person, I put down their contact details, and then I make notes on their bios. Why are these people, what's exciting? I don't like learning and development. No, nothing against it to people who are into it, but I'm telling you, when I did this list, by the 3rd one in, okay, 10 minutes into this, I find out this guy here was working with President Clinton. He's the ambassador for the US for the UAE, and he's the ambassador to Syria. How exciting is that? Now I'm not even looking for the job. I want to meet the guy, right? And when you go and you talk to him, people are dynamic. They have lives. They have things they're involved in. This guy is probably involved on so many levels in the community, at the country level, in the political level, in the training and development level. You want to meet the guy now. So this is the future. You have to really be on the ball and know your market and know your space and know where you're going. Because if you just want to do this broad, send your CV to 100 different jobs, and then you get called in for an interview and you don't really know who the boss is, and you met this guy and you didn't know he was the ambassador, you're missing a huge opportunity to make that connection. So these lists, the first part is called making your target list with the 4 sections we discussed. And now the second part where you're putting in the bio is called talent mapping. Talent mapping is a technique that the world's top headhunters use, okay? So how can you find this out? Again, remember the 4 lists. So that was the second list. The fourth list now, reading your media channels, reading the trade publications. So here, in about 20 minutes, I found, there's tons of, really good leadership and training magazines out there. As soon as I read these, it's going to give me information about who? The people who are in my first list. Who's leading the industry, and now I can find out all their information, their bios. So when you're reading the publications, it does 2 things. It increases your current market knowledge, and it feeds and tells you who the top players are, who you should be meeting. And there's nothing better than starting a meeting with, oh, I just read your feature article in XYZ magazine, It really makes the meeting a lot easier. And you can even call someone and ask for a meeting based on it. Hey, I just read your article on, XYZ. I'd really love to meet with you and talk about it. It was really reminding me of this book I was reading. I'd love to share some of those ideas with you. Are you free Tuesday at 11? And get that meeting, right? You can't get a meeting because you don't have the depth. The more depth you have, if 2 industry experts, they call each other, if one industry expert cold calls another industry expert, they're immediately going to take that call. They're immediately going to take that call. So that's So that's really what you do with the trade publications. So it's getting industry contacts and it's becoming knowledgeable about your profession. So another thing, when I see someone who hasn't found a job in 8 weeks, they're not subscribed to their industry publications. They haven't been reading the latest stuff on their industry. They don't really know who the players are. They don't have a target list of what the top companies are. They don't have a secondary list of what the top companies are. They haven't made notes on what everybody's bios is. And they're just sitting there going, oh, the market's not kind to me. It's not fair. Okay, you have to do the work. You have to sweat. You have to get a little bit of the elbow grease into the thing. And then live events. I really think that when I talk with a lot of people, they wait for their company, oh, my company didn't fly me over, or my company's not investing in me. Even if you're, and I think it's even better if you're junior and you haven't even got your first job yet, and you know there's a certain industry that you want to get involved in, get on the plane and go and fly to that big industry event. You're going to learn so much just listening to somebody who's a specialist in that industry talk about it. You're going to meet so many people, it's going to put you on another level. It's going to give you, again, this whole process is aimed at giving you a competitive advantage. So as soon as you go to that event, when you come out, you're going to have a competitive advantage. And so not even having a list is not really good. So this is just quickly showing you one of the events. I put LinkedIn in the event category because it's a place where professionals are interacting live. So here's a group, the training and whatever group, whatever was showing you. The first person in there, as soon as I look at him, his actual contact details were listed. If they weren't listed, I could send him an email via LinkedIn. But this was an easy kill. But anyway, again, I'll just show you how I'd write the email. I don't say, Dear John, I'm looking for a job. Okay, again, why am I interested in him? He's the founder of Training Guru. He's, why is his profile exciting to me? And then I go after my USPs and then pull him in. So, does that make sense? So these are how these 4 things play together. They work together, the 4 lists, to create a synergy, okay? As soon as you look at it, your industry publications go back into your first list. All the lists create a circle and a wave of energy which allow you to move forward in the industry. If you use these 4, I have never seen anyone fail, okay? I just want to quickly touch now, how do you work a network at an event, okay? Most people think networking starts when you go to the event. It's not true. Networking starts well before the event. If I'm going to an event, I'll reach out to people. We're doing the CFO MENA Forum Strategies event on November 17th. We've already reached out to all the people that we can that are going and try to meet them beforehand. I'll talk about the shock and awe technique and the follow-up. So these are some of the, so this is how I would approach somebody. Here's the training and development show. So I go on the event show page, I look at the sponsors. Wilson Learning, I don't know if you can see it, there's one of the key sponsors, so I assume that the managing partner is gonna go. I look up on their website, the managing partner is listed there. You can see he seems very approachable, his tie's off. I look on his LinkedIn, he's got his LinkedIn profile there. I find him on his Facebook, I find him on his SlideShare, I could have found him on his Twitter. I could get a huge amount of information about this guy, okay? So let's just assume I can just, and if I don't, I can just call the switchboard, ask for his email, and then send him an email. And again, I demonstrate my knowledge of him. I talk about the fact of how I want to get together with him. So it's basically, a very simple formula. Nowhere do I tell him I'm looking for a job and I'd love, dear sir, I'd love to come and to discuss my profile, or please see my CV, okay? Because when you meet a decision maker who's growing a business, you're automatically being interviewed. You're automatically being interviewed. What's the most important piece of information that was been shown on this slide if I wanted to meet this guy? Does anyone know? Anybody? It's right there. His mobile number is listed right on the website. So you can basically, a lot of these decision makers are a lot more accessible than you think. So get away from applying to jobs online. His mobile number was listed. It's just by chance. So I wanted to just show you the shock and awe technique. So the best thing you can do is, if you go to an event, if you can be a speaker, that's the best thing you can do, okay? Maybe for those of you who are just graduating, you can't, you're not going to be asked to come and be a speaker as an industry expert at an event. But what you could do, you can be a speaker even if you're not invited to be, because the first thing that happens when the panel discussion ends, they ask you, are there any questions? So you stand up. There's usually a 30-second pause as somebody musters up the courage to ask the first question. Mentally psych yourself up that you're going to be the one who's going to ask the first question. Stand up, say your name, Shane Phillips, Managing Director, Shane Phillips Consultants. I'd love to talk to you. And then, I call it shock and awe because you want to ask a question that's on a hot topic. I want to talk to you about the Iranian sanctions and the fact that France just blocked them, or something like that, where people are going to catch your attention, that it's on topic. And so here's a picture of a man being a speaker who's not a speaker. He's just in the audience, he stands up. And this basically, if you ask an insightful question, the first thing that will happen is after that session, when you walk out for coffee, people will come up to you and say, hey, I really like your question. Here's my name is XYZ, right? So your networking will be done for you, and you'll meet 4, 5, 6 people just by asking a smart question. They'll remember who you are. That's the shock and awe question. And that's the reverse of getting the fish to come to you rather than you fishing them. That's basically it. And then after the events, follow up, book meetings with the people who are there. And if you can, create content. If you want to create content about this event, you're more than welcome. You can videotape, take pictures, post it on the web, write as much as you want. We're more than happy to. We're having another event on November 26th, and we're going to be having them all the way through to February. So that's basically the key takeaways. Is, the one thing that if I could tell you to do is be focused and get to know an industry really, really, really well, and have intellectual curiosity about that particular industry. We have a very special guest coming this evening, who's basically, when he came to Dubai, he had little more than a shirt on his back. He's a man who didn't give up. The fact that he was so broke, he was actually sleeping on the floor at one point, and his wife and his kid as well were with him, so it wasn't an easy road, but he was determined, armed with nothing more than a dream and a business plan. He was so broke, in fact, he had to walk through the Shindiga tunnel because he couldn't afford the water ferry ride across. It's a real rags to riches story, but deep down inside, he knew he was an entrepreneur, and he never gave up. And he started a company called Petrochem Middle East, FZE, I believe. And today they have one of the largest chemical storage terminals. He's the largest chemical trader in the entire Middle East. And he has a turnover of well over $1 billion. He's no longer sleeping on the floor or walking through the Shindiga tunnel. He has a preference between his Bentley and his Maserati, and probably a few others which we don't know about. Please welcome Mr. Yogesh Mehta to the stage.
Good evening, folks. So my short name is Yogi, and if you like this evening, then come and meet me later. But address me at all times, and let's have a very interactive discussion here. Ask questions, always ask questions. Come out of your shell. And as Shane is going to, I think he's going to do more than ask questions tonight. And I'm quite looking forward to it.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming back. And one of the things we were talking about is meeting decision makers is that you find is that people who are successful want one of the main things they love to do is help other people be successful.
Many people, as I see them, they want to know, how did I get rich? What is the formula for success? How can I get rich just like you did? And please tell me, shall I take a left turn, then a right turn, and then immediately will I be rich? And, rich, do you think rich is really the end-all and the be-all? Or do you think one wants to be successful? There are some students here. There are some careerists here. There are some people who want to find answers. And really, quite simply, to achieve success is a long, winding, grinding path. And doesn't come easy. But as Shane will ask me more questions, we will come and try and unfold this mystery also tonight.
Well, yeah, and I guess this is one success story that didn't start so successfully. In fact, I think your first business left you bankrupt and sleeping on the floor. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about the beginnings.
Yes, I started my business in India when I was 19 years old. Back in those days, 19 years was a good enough age to start work. Parents, as they were, I come from a middle class background, and my parents were expecting that I should be working. I was also dating my girlfriend, who is today my wife of 30 years, and I wanted to appear busy in front of her. I wanted to show her that I can also earn, and hence I had to start early in life. And as I made some quick bucks and some easy money in my early stage of my career, I started spending also unwisely. I started spending more than I earned. And quickly that money got over. But in that journey, I had got married, and our son was born. And quickly, as I saw, my money was, or my business, both dissolved very, very quickly. And that was my time in Bombay and India in 1988 and 89. I came to Dubai in 1990, and really, there's one friend of mine who's here who has followed my path. And I came here in 1990, and really actually on a hope and a prayer. And the hope and a prayer was that I wanted to be successful. I wanted to intensely, passionately succeed. Succeed as not so much as make money, but succeed as not fail, because I was tired of failing. I had to sell my wife's belongings, my jewelry, wife's jewelries, my even the utensils and all that. And you know, it was
You had to sell your utensils as well?
Yes, and even cupboards and even smaller furniture. It was quite bad, Shane. It was quite bad.
So did you feel like this was never going to end, that there was no light at this?
Well, I was quickly thinking, let's get rid of this, let's get some money, and let's live that day or the week or the month, and tomorrow will be a better day. Of course, I always felt that tomorrow, it'll be tomorrow, that I will wake up and I will see the path of success and I will be successful. So as we came to Dubai, I came to Dubai in 1990, and again, I had nothing. So my friend had invited me to Dubai, and he was also not doing very well. But he had a small house and a large heart. And he said, you come to Dubai, you stay with me. And I came with my wife and my son, and we stayed in his small apartment, teeny-weeny apartment. He had his mom and his wife and his child, and I stayed with him. And we were given his living room, and in his living room there was a small sofa, so we were living on the floor, sleeping on the floor, on the carpet. And the carpet was for my son, who was 1 year old, and the floor, the hard flooring, was for my wife and I.
That is very difficult. Where do you come up with an idea to start, you know, the amount of capital you need to start a chemical trading business is huge. I mean, where do you get the idea and the confidence to go for something that big, that capital intensive?
Yes, whilst I'd lost everything, the one thing that I always had was education. So I did my MBA in Bombay, and afterwards, of course, I did my MBA with Harvard Business School also. But I did my MBA in Bombay, so I was thinking I was quite educated, and I felt that if I had a business plan, I would find somebody who would invest with me and who would look after the financial part of the business, and I would look after the working part of the business, which means I would be the brains, and I would look for somebody who could finance me. And actually, I found somebody like that, and who had a dream similar to mine, but who didn't have the time. So I set up a small chemical company in a large foodstuff company, and actually quickly that business grew. And there was the one reason that it grew was that, well, when I started on June 6, 1990, and in 1st August we had the Gulf War. And in the Gulf War, people started leaving Dubai city. I don't know if some of you were here, or some of you were even born at that time. And the Gulf War was chaos, and people were trying to leave the city or giving up Dubai and thinking that the war is going to come closer and closer. The war, of course, was that Iraq had invaded Kuwait. We stayed back at that time. We invested in chemicals. My business is chemicals. We invested in large volumes of chemicals at that time. And the war was over very quickly, and we had a huge inventory which we could sell at a higher price. So sometimes you need a catalyst to growth, and if you get that catalyst, then you can quickly grow. So it's difficult to make $10,000, but it's not difficult to make $100,000. It's difficult to make $100,000, but it's not difficult to make $1 million. So you need stepping stones towards success. You need building blocks to your success, is what I think.
So this was one of you, and you talk about making your first million as one of the milestones in the career of a businessman.
Well, a million is well,
or businesswoman, let me say. So,
in my time, back in my time in India, $1 million was money that your 7 generations could live. But in today's terms, if you have $1 million, maybe you can have a good 5 years. They don't go beyond 5 years. But $1 million is still a milestone, and you think that the idea is actually to acquire or make some money, and make some money. We call it $1 million. And if you, she wants to speak to me. Hi.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rehana. I am from CAS Business School. Just wanted to ask a few questions moving forward. You said that you came here in Dubai in 1990, then there was a Gulf War, and then you started a company. You were on you lived with your friend. My question was, how did you meet your supposed to be business partner? You said yeah, because you missed that part.
You want to know that? It's very nitty-gritty. It's a nitty-gritty. I met my business partner because I went with my cousin brother who was living here, and he was in the foodstuff business. And I would go. I was spending time with that cousin of mine, and I was selling malapine. I don't know if you're from Philippines, but malapine pineapple slices, and they come from Philippines. And yes, and I was selling that for my cousin brother. He was my wife's cousin, not my cousin. And I was making 40, 50 dirhams a carton. And that would be, I would sell 2 or 3 cartons, 4 cartons a week. And that is before I got into the foodstuff business. And I was selling foodstuff for my cousin brother and spending time. And he took me to this huge foodstuff buyer and this foodstuff company. And I just went because, we were talking in the way. He said, come in the car. It's a long journey. It was from Dera to Rashidia. At that time, from Dera to Rashidia, it took 25 minutes, and we thought it was a lot. Right now, I came from my office to here. It took me 55 minutes, and it's only 10 miles. Dubai has grown now. So I was selling food stuff for my cousin, and my cousin was visiting this person, and I went along with him. And so this gentleman, he said to me, you're here, what do you do? I said, well, I'm not here for yourselves. I'm here because with my cousin, but I actually want to do a chemical business. And he said, oh, you want to do a chemical business? I want to do a chemical business. Do you want to join me? And that's how I joined this small company. And I had a business plan, and that was very, very important, that I made a business plan. You guys are educating yourselves. You're going to embark into a career outside. You need to have a business plan for anything you do. For me, if I want to talk to my wife, I have a business plan. Because, if I talk something which is nonsensical, she might shout at me. Everything needs a business plan, trust me. So that was that small nitty-gritty.
Do you believe that was serendipity or the law of attraction because your mind was so focused on chemical business that you were now attracting this person, or is it just pure luck or chance?
No, it was by intent that I was in the chemical business. As I came here in 1990, I went to the Chamber of Commerce, I went to the library, and I found out what chemicals Dubai was a small, sleepy, fishing village almost at that time in 1990, not the bustling metropolis it is today. And I used to go to that library and sit there for hours and hours and weeks, finding out what's coming into this country, what's going out, who are the customers, what's the segment of the market, what market shall I attack. And that's how I made a business plan.
So it's a lot of research that
Lots of research, and I had a proper ready dossier to show my potential partner and say, that's what I can do, I need your money, and here's my plan.
This is one of the things we were just talking about is that the biggest opportunities present themselves to those executives who are the most focused. And I don't know if you would agree or disagree with that.
Well, focus is intent, and intent is purpose. So you have to have all three. You have to have all this because you have to have a vision. What do you really want to do? I had a young lady, she is a Harvard Business School graduate, and I do mentor people from all walks of life, but especially from HBS, and I'm bound to do that. So this young lady had come, and she said to me, I really want to get into the internet business, and I think that Dubai is going to get the Expo 2020, and there's going to be an internet boom. And I said, look, what are you talking about? What internet boom? Why? What? And she said, no, I just want to be in the internet business. And I said, what will you do? She said, I've come here. You tell me, what shall I do? And I said, it's not going to work like that. You need to have a business plan. You need to have an idea. You need to find a niche. You need to find your own comfort zone. You need to be educated for the business that you are doing. If you can't manufacture dolls if you have no experience of manufacturing dolls, for example.
So keep focused. And so then as you started the business, what were some of the major challenges and some of the main milestones as the business morphed and evolved to the giant it is today?
Yes, so from 1990 to 94, I was a partner, a small partner in that small business, which was part of the foodstuff business. In 1994, I left that company and formed Petrochem. In late 94, I formed Petrochem. And we started in City Tower 2, which is a large, tall building. What we did was that our idea was to create barriers to entry. So we said, let's get the best agencies that we can get. Let's build a tank terminal for storage. Let's have a nice logistical terminal and storage terminal so that we can provide just-in-time products, chemicals to the customers. So we identified products, we identified markets, we identified end users, and then we created tools for business. Tools for business was the tank terminal that we had. We hired tanks, we hired road tankers and trailers. We arranged bank lines with our banks. We traveled and scouted for agencies all around the world. So we set up a proper business with a proper business model in mind.
And then was it smooth sailing, or was it into the rocks?
Challenges, every 5 minutes, challenges. At first it was very difficult to convince the banks that they should loan us the money that we were asking. And in banking, in the banking fraternity, I give you a tip. Show a banker that you don't want his money. He will give it to you. But you must prove to him that you don't want the money. So, so they said, when we went to the banks, they said, oh, do you have a 3-year balance sheet? We said, we do not, because we are only a 3-month-old company. How can we have a 3-year balance sheet? So if you have no track record, if you have no performance, how can we trust you? Well, we have got our $1 million, we've got a $2 million, we've invested this money, against this money we want that money, and we have a large dream, and the bank said, we can't lend you money on your dream, we can lend money on bricks and mortars. And I said, but I'm asking you money to build bricks and mortars, it's to build my terminal. So, the challenge is to convince people and banks and how to get the finance, and that was a big challenge. The challenge was also to get those lovely agencies that we got. And so we are distributors for Arco, which is big, which is Lyondell, for Shell, for BP, for Eastman. These are very large companies. And the challenge was to go there and convince them. The lucky part, the good part was Dubai was still unknown to the rest of the world in 1994 and 95, and hence it was easy if you spoke well, if you dressed well, and if you walked that talk a little bit even, you would get those agencies. So we overcame a lot of hurdles, but it was easier then. I must say that it was easier.
But getting your first piece of financing, was it just a matter of being relentless in terms of the number of banker meetings that you had, or did you have to give up on getting debt financing and go all with equity?
My partner is British and he lives in London, and he had some money and he had some banking contacts. He gave guarantees in London which were transferred to our offices in Dubai, so that helped. And actually the business was very lucid, which was very liquid. The business was very profitable actually from day one. And I'm saying now this is in early 95, and from 95 to 97 we really had a good business environment, and we were making money. But as week became months, became a year, we were doing very well, and the banks were seeing that, our financiers were seeing that, our suppliers were seeing that, so we got more credit and more finance.
And so then what was the next step? Had you made your first million at this point, or you're 7 years into the business?
Oh, yes, the first million was made in 1994, 93 even, in 1993, and I had made enough money in the smaller company that I was. But the challenge was to grow bigger. The challenge was to grow larger. The challenge was to actually do something. I mean, see, sometimes your survival is for bread and butter. I had gone beyond that, and I was at that point looking for jam. I was at that point looking to become an industrialist, to grow an empire, to build a tank terminal, to have offices all over the world, to hire 200-300 people. I had huge visions, huge ambitions, and great passion to arrive at those ambitions that I had.
So by 97, 98, how big had the business grown at this point?
But by 98, we had arrived, actually. By 98, in 1998, we were already the largest distributors of chemicals in the Middle East. And by 2000, we were really growing leaps and bounds. But really, we acquired $1 billion turnover only in 2004.
Hi, Bobby from Le Moon. You mentioned how important it was for you to have a business model and a business plan and dossier. How closely did you stick to that once you set the business up, and how flexible did you have to be with your original plan once entering the market and setting up your business?
Well, the business plan was really not very intense, though I must say that it was a huge dossier. You quickly move away from it. And it's a very good question, because you must have a business plan, but that business plan is meant to be busted. You must have a budget, and that budget you must bust. You must have a forecast, and you should not meet the forecast. And you can never meet a forecast. How many large companies, people of large companies, every November, December, they make a budget for the next year? How many by the first quarter of the year you know you made a budget you're not going to keep? Either you're going to overshoot it, or you're going to underachieve it. So, but you still need a starting point. So that starting point was that business plan. But as you get your hands dirty, you tend to improvise. And if you're good at what you do, you adapt very, very quickly. And as you adapt, then you're going to improvise easily.
And so now, how big is the business, just so we know, staff size, or how do...
So today, so we have a benchmarker in our industry. It's called ICIS. So ICIS has declared Petrochem as the largest chemical distributor in the Middle East. So we are #1 in the Middle East. We are number 11 in Asia and Pacific, because so Petrochem has offices in Shanghai, in Singapore, in Egypt, in India, London, Antwerp, and of course the head office is in Dubai. So in Asia, which is subcontinent Asia and Asia Pacific, we are number 11 in the world. And actually we are number 17 in the world. We are the number 17 distributors, largest at number 17 in the world. So this is chemical distribution, which is a huge achievement.
Wow. And then, but despite all of this, you don't feel that you've really done a lot with your life. And in fact, on many days, you come home feeling defeated.
Oh, yes. I mean, even today has not been such a good day work-wise. It has not been, and lately, our business is very, very challenged. When I say lately, let's say in the year 2013, we are very, very challenged. We have a large business. Our turnover is more than $1 billion, actually. And really, our bottom line is bad. We are not making good money. We are not making enough money. We are challenged at profits. We are challenged at profits. Why? Because our margins have diminished. So maybe our top line remains where it is, but we are working harder for lower margins. What is the reason for that? The reason is that the world markets have shrunken. So if you sit here working in the Middle East from 3 years ago and today, the following markets have gone from our side: Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Tunisia, Iran, Yemen, Somalia. You can't deal in those markets. And so those markets have gone away. We are Middle East distributors, and we don't have those markets. We have a huge office in India and a huge business. We used to have a huge business in India. India had a 10% GDP. Today, India is at 3.5. Today, the rupee is at 64 to the dollar, when it was 54 only 4 months ago.
And when you're buying in bulk, that really hurts, I guess.
It hurts because our business model is large volumes. So in a rising market, we will make a lot of money. In a falling market, we will lose money.
So when you look back on it, what would you say some of the biggest mistakes are that you've made?
The biggest, well, we've made so many mistakes. I could write books and books about how many mistakes we have made, and those books would, keep adding up. The more we think we are clever, the more foolish we are, I think. My personal biggest mistake has been that it's very difficult for me to say this, but I'm going to tell you guys. My biggest mistake is that I've been a good guy. And because I'm a good guy, the other word for good guy is foolish. And I've been a very foolish guy. I've been very trusting. I have opened my heart and my pockets to everybody whom I know, and a lot of disadvantage has been taken. Even in the company that we work in the environment that we work in, it has boomeranged quite a. Sometimes I feel that I should be smarter, shrewder, cleverer, more cunning, but I don't think as a human being I want to be that. So sometimes I'm taken for a ride.
So you think that it's better to be to rule with an iron fist in business?
Definitely. I think that one has to be almost diabolical, tyrannical, and autocratic in running a business. Business is for serious people. Business is not for the light-hearted. If you're running especially corporates and large empires and large businesses, it's not a walk in the park. You have to be very, very serious, and you have to rule with an iron hand. Remember that societies work with leadership. Households work with leadership. Companies also work with leadership. If there is no leadership, you may say that, oh, let's empower people, or let's decentralize this. But you always need a captain. And who is a captain? You always need a leader. And who is a leader? A leader is a person who has followers. And you can lead by example. You can lead by commanding people. You cannot lead by demanding to be led. So there is a lot of leadership challenges that I personally have. And I'm a mere mortal, and I'm not very, very intelligent, and I make a lot of mistakes, and I fall down all the time. I just keep falling down.
But tyrannical is strong verbiage.
I tell you, tyrannical, I mean it. I mean that I want to know, the dark side of my mind when I'm very angry. I want to know how many people have gone to the loo, how many times. I want to know when they came to the office. I want to know what is their output today. I want to know how many phone calls they made to their wives and personal calls. I want to know how much Yahoo they're chatting, they're on Yahoo chat, and how much Facebook they're doing in the company. But can I do that? I can't do that. I have to allow people to live. They also have a life. They're 10 hours at work. They need the lighter side of life. We have to allow it. But I wish those people found the balance and said, let's be committed to where we are working. Let's be committed to this environment, to this company which loves you, which cares for you, and which looks after you on a daily basis. Why tend to screw it up?
So I guess when the company's losing money, they're collecting their salaries and going home, and you're stuck in the office in a sinking ship.
Well, I hope.
I hope it's not sinking. I mean, you're stuck in the office suffering the losses.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you always feel that. See, when you've seen good years, it's very difficult to see bad years. You can move from an apartment to a villa, but you cannot move from a villa to an apartment. So as you have progress, you only want to see better, and you're used to seeing better. So the moment you see darker and terrible times, then you tend to question it. First of all, I question myself, and my esteem is at an all-time low when the business is not doing well, because I'm just not used to it.
When we look at kind of the evolution of corporate strategy, initially in the 60s and 70s, Porter, they came out with positioning, they came out with economies of scale, and part of it is if you could have the largest share of a market, you could produce at the lowest cost, and that was your best business model. And then the Japanese wiped that out with the Kaizen and Six Sigma and operational efficiency, so you could actually have a smaller plant that's more efficient that could then knock out a larger economy, a larger business with infrastructure. And I know that you have complained that you wish your business was half the size. Is this part of a strategy where you feel now with new technologies it's no longer to your advantage to have all this infrastructure, or is it for other reasons?
Well, I'm actually a strong believer of the Six Sigma concept. I'm a strong believer of having structure and management in what you do. That is very, very important. But really, one needs to adopt and adapt and have one's own style. My style is of emotional intelligence, and I run my company with emotional intelligence. So I would tend to look after my people so that they look after the company rather than order them or terrorize them. The dark side of my mind wants to terrorize, but the practical side of my mind says, let's work with emotional intelligence. We are a people's company. If our people's motivations are not right, if they are not fired up as they come to work, they will not perform. And I need to personally look at their motivations. Hence, my company is run with emotional intelligence.
So when you're looking at your people and driving your leadership agenda, do you feel leaders are born? Are they made? Are they developed?
Yeah, that's a classic. Let's ask somebody here. Do you think leaders are made or are they born? Can anybody say? Mr. Singh. Mr. Singh.
Leaders are born.
Leaders are born.
Let me give you a few examples of leadership, how you recognize a leader. So we are in working environments. Lots of us are in working environments. We are in home environments. Lots of ladies may be in home environments also. But to me, a leader is, you're in a room, there are 10 people, and suddenly somebody comes into the room, and it's almost as if the lights have come on. It's almost as if you are talking to somebody, but you are then gravitating towards that person. That is a sign of leadership. When that person speaks, it's almost as if she has a halo on her head. And you don't know why she has a halo on her head. That's a leader. When I was studying at Harvard Business School, we used to have challenges with our professor. These guys are very enlightened people. And as students, we like to bash them up. And we had this whole debate in that class. And that debate lasted for 3 days because we couldn't do it. And there were lots of video presentations. There were lots of arguments of whether leaders are born or where leaders are made. And at one point, we were a class of 70 people. And at one point, the class was divided. We sat also in this way that these are the leaders who were born and these are the leaders that were made believers of those. And we were fighting with each other. And the professor was saying, what the heck is going on here? And the belief was that the person who believes that leaders are born will believe that and believe nothing else. And the people who believe, well, leaders can be made. In the journey of life, one can become a leader. But really, if you want a short answer from myself, Shane, if you excuse me, if you want a short answer, I think that leaders are born, full stop. Leadership comes from the gut. Leadership doesn't come from the mind. Leadership, how short was Napoleon, for example? And, I don't want to talk about ugly people, but I want to say that leadership comes from something that is an attitude, truly, but that attitude is about leadership, and that attitude you are born. So when I had no money and when I had nothing to live on and I was failing every day and I was falling every day and the whole world was laughing at me and they were laughing, ridiculing and abusing me even, I always thought that tomorrow I'm going to be a tycoon. Tomorrow I'm going to come out of it. This is a temporary hiccup in my life and tomorrow is going to be fine. And I believe that every day. And the poorer I got, the richer I got in my mind saying that tomorrow is going to be a better day. I call that foolishness today. Thank God that I believed and I was that foolish in thinking that tomorrow will be a better day. I survived that. And thanks to my foolishness in that. But I think that's also an integral part of leadership and being a leader.
So you actually were getting pounded by the game of life to the point of you actually having people ridicule you.
Oh, that was a dime a dozen. That was very frequent. Ridicule as in, I would wear the best clothes. I would borrow money to wear the best clothes. I would take my wife out for holidays and borrow money. I would always have a car. I don't know how I had a car. I couldn't afford the petrol in it, but I had a car. And so at one point, people used to not say hello to me because they were thinking that he's now going to ask me money again. And when you get into that hellhole, in that pit, where you're used to borrowing money and getting your way, that just becomes your way of life. And you got to jolt yourself and knock yourself in your head and say, I want to be self-righteous, self-respectful, and I want to come out of this. I've got to wake up sometime. Because, you see a beggar on the street, and in India, we have lots of these people. And that's a profession then. And hence, making a living out of borrowing from people can also become a profession and a way of life. And then you get ridiculed, but you acquire a thick skin, and that's fine. You don't worry about it until you wake up.
Was there any day where you just said, the sky's falling, this is it, I don't have the energy to go on, and somehow you found...
Are you saying, did I ever contemplate suicide? No, I don't think so. I was very, very depressed many times, and there were tears in my eyes and continuous tears, and I used to remain depressed, and I used to remain defeated. But I don't think that I got suicidal at any time, which means that I don't think I gave up hope in the extremity at any time. But I had various moments of, and especially my long walks. When I was depressed, I would take long walks, and those long walks were tears streaming on my face from my eyes, and I'm walking, and I have no answer, I have no question, I don't know what I'm doing, and I was just in a fantasy, and I had many, and I can vividly remember that even as if it happened yesterday, and though it hasn't, and I don't know if I've ever shed a tear to that respect for even in the last 20 years, but they are quite vivid.
What was it that drove you to that point where you were walking?
One always sleeps with oneself. I can cheat a lot of people every day. I can fool a lot of people every day. In the end, I have to sleep with myself. And which means that the time for reckoning comes. So as I fool people, as I cheat people, and I cheat myself even, at one point I have to give it, I was giving it up, and I was thinking, how long can this be? Really, actually, I'm a failure. Really, actually, I'm not going to be successful. Really, I'm not going to look after my child or my wife. And really, I have no purpose in life.
This was in the beginning in '91, or when the business first started?
Right up till 1990, from 87 to 1990.
Okay, those 3 years before you found your feet, you just were massacred. And so it was just basically about getting just the energy to take that just one more step towards your dream.
Yeah, what really saved me was my youth. As I said, that I was 28, 29, 27, 28, 29 years. The youth is on your side. The foolishness of youth is also on your side. Foolishness means that I did not have the fear of the unknown because I didn't know, and I was not intelligent enough to know about, look, if I owe money to people and I don't pay, if I issue checks that I can't honor, I will go to jail. But I didn't have the intelligence to think about those things. I just carried on. So I survived it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Trifina from MLC International. I just have two questions for you. Firstly, how did you discover that you had a passion for the chemical industry, for you to actually draw up that business plan where you thought about, let me get into the chemicals business? That's the first one. And then the second one is into two parts. Firstly, when you were still young, starting your business, what was your driving force? What motivated you to wake up every morning, to run, to chase after this vision that you had? And secondly, today, now that you're successful, what drives you in the morning? What motivates you? What wakes you up still?
Wow, you've taken me through the whole journey of my life. My father passed away at 85 2 years ago. My father was a PhD polymer chemist and a very intelligent man, and he was in the chemical business. My uncles, my father's brothers, were in the chemical business. And because I'm an Indian Gujarati, it's our culture that the family business then is bestowed on the younger people, and especially if I'm a son. That's how traditions in India work. And so my father, and I was the only son, I have an older sister. And so my father said, Tag, you're it. You're going to be doing the family's chemical business. And I said, oh, okay, I'll be doing it. And then I studied, and I did my BSc with chemistry, and I studied for chemistry. And I thought, look, I had a girlfriend whom I had to fund and look respectable in front of. So I joined my father's business, which was manufacturing chemicals. I quickly left my father's business because I didn't want to do manufacturing. I thought I'm a people's person. I want to be in front of people. I'm a salesman. So I left that boring manufacturing business, and my father almost disowned me. And he said, are you mad? This is our family business, you're leaving. And he didn't talk to me for a while. But I said, I'm going to do my own. And he said, you're going to do your own, you got to fund yourself on your own. And I had to manage all that by myself. And I found a partner somewhere. That means I conned somebody into becoming my partner. And I did all that. But so hence the short answer to that is the chemical business was in my family. My son today is 25 years old, and he's in our chemical business. But that chemical doesn't mean chemical. Chemicals is a wide, varied, generical thing. There's too many things in chemicals. My father did something else, I'm doing something else. But I got the inspiration from the family. In my desperate moment, there was only one thing that was constant, and I said that in the beginning, there was my need to succeed. I always believed in my head that I would be a tycoon. No, seriously, I mean, I don't want to say it in a grandiose manner, but I seriously believed that I'm going to be a very rich man. I'm meant to be rich. I never believed otherwise. I never, in my darkest, deepest, darkest moments, I never ever thought that I'll be poor. I always thought that I'm poor today, but tomorrow it'll be fine. I'll be okay. And I believed that. And then finally, as things happened my way and life moved on the way I have wanted it to move on, I had new challenges. So today I'm 54 years old, and at 42, I had a midlife crisis at 42. A midlife crisis is, it's not like, it's a very different thing. It's a very sad thing when you get a midlife crisis when you achieved everything in your life. And I thought that I didn't achieve many, many things. I didn't get good education. So I went to Harvard Business School. I got myself enrolled there. I was running a huge company. I left all that and I started studying. I started paying back to society. I started mentoring people. I started teaching people. I started helping people. And I don't want to talk about my charity because it's very, very private. But I decided to give my good time back to the society as much as I could. And that is not because I'm doing a favor to the society. I'm doing a favor to myself. It keeps me going. Otherwise, what will keep me going? What is my motivation? Though I'm not very, very rich, but I still have those very, very common small thoughts that you have or I have, which are very, very common. And I like to help society in every way I can.
So now you've basically created quite a beachhead. You're 17th largest. Also being in a kind of commodity business, you have a very interesting perspective on world markets, world trade, economies. Where do we go from here? What's kind of your perspective, both for the company, for yourself, and for the markets?
Well, currently we are in very hostile times. It's not a good time to be in business. I'm not saying that particularly because the energy business or the petrochemical business or the chemical business is not doing very well. In fact, actually, we are doing quite well in the given circumstances. But really, the message from my perspective, the businesses of the world are not doing well. You tell me one business that has really recently grown other than a Procter & Gamble business or a Unilever business or a business like Pepsi and Coke, because those are low units, low ticket items and consumer items that will do well. But really the challenge comes, look at the IT industry, where is it today? Look at the petrochemical industry, where is it today? There is enough and more being produced or offered in every respect of any marketing or any product or any segment. So we live in challenge times, and continuously we must find new verticals, new manner and ideas to grow business or get into new lines of business which then can be profitable for yourself. But currently what are we doing at Petrochem? We are looking for new verticals. We are looking for new business lines. And really there's not much juice in the petrochemical business that we are doing. Of course, it is cyclical, and after 3 or 5 or 6 years, this whole landscape will change and we'll become profitable again, and demand will come back again, because demand does come back again. And there is some optimism to that. But currently, it's hostile times.
So hostile times, and so the option is to diversify out of your core.
Yes, diversify, create new verticals, have new lines of income. Don't just depend on your core, but always remain loyal to your core, because core is what you know best, what you do best, what you are known for. So you must remain with the core. But don't put all your eggs in one basket.
What's your take on the Dubai market? How do you think we'll be doing over the next 5 years?
Dubai is a very resilient economy. So we will always shine, we will always come out of doldrums, we will always look at the pot at the end of the rainbow and there will be a pot of gold. There is some hype, there is some reason to be optimistic, but there is also some hype. And we should be careful to separate the wheat from the chaff. Don't believe in everything you listen. Listen to your heart, listen to your mind, be intelligent in investments that you do. Do you think that the real estate boom is there to stay? And do we have a real estate boom? I don't think so. Do you think that Dubai has got a great future? 100%. Dubai is shining. Dubai is happening. UAE is happening. And we have got lots of oil here, and we have got right-minded people who are running this country, and I think that we have a great future in Dubai.
My name is Prakash Dave. I have two questions. One is you spoke about the dedication, commitment, passion that you had, with which you are able to have the kingdom of over $1 billion today. Now, do you believe that another person who would have worked equally like you would have got the same fortune, or is there something like destiny also?
Oh, clearly, what you mean destiny, I attribute to luck. And there is a luck factor, definitely that counts. Not everything is my hard work and my own being. Clearly, if you ask me, I think 80% is luck and 20% is the hard work. Hard work, everybody does. Hard work, the taxi driver is doing. Hard work, the porter is doing. Everybody is doing hard work. We are all applying ourselves on a daily basis. But how you apply yourself, how you position yourself, how you make your luck count, how you make your luck happen, these are very important things. And I think a lot of it you may attribute to destiny. I'm not a fatalist. I attribute nothing to my destiny. I attribute a lot to my good luck and my working towards my good luck.
Second question is, you have been very truthful in sharing some of the weaknesses. The point that you made is huge volume, right? During a rising market, you make good profit. During a declining market, probably the fixed cost is remaining same. So you tend to make less profit. So have you ever thought of backward integration and manufacturing on your own?
Clearly, we're talking about backward integration. Clearly, we're talking about investment in our allied business, allied, which means we always believe in a hub and spoke business. So if we want to expand, we must expand with regard to the hub, which means your core. And we are looking for such businesses. We are looking to buy businesses. We are looking to get into manufacturing, downward integration, upward integration. Clearly, we have hired people, analysts whom we are paying to give us ideas. We are concerned, we are deeply concerned that this environment is not what it was. And if we don't progress and innovate at this time, we will sink.
Last point, sir. Based on your personal experience, any advice that you'd like to give to youngsters here?
Yeah, the advice is that I don't have a magic wand to tell you, as I began my conversation, that I'm not here to give you a formula and say, if you do the following, tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, you're going to be a millionaire. There is no such formula. The formula is non-existent. What I can say is that you must be educated. We are in a university right now. Education is key. There is no shortcut to education. You must educate yourself. Education gives you logic. Logic gives you good sense. Good sense gives you good work. It is very simple. And I can break it up into pieces. You have to be educated. Education is key. If you're educated, you will go a long way. Then you need to be focused. You need to be hardworking. You need to be integrated. These are all very important facets. There's no shortcut at all to success in any way.
Hi. During the difficult times, the depression phase, the long walks, as you said, did your wife and son know and share that difficulty with you, or did you internalize and shelter them from the truth?
Well, my son was only 1 year old, so poor fellow, he didn't have a role to play, thank God. But my wife, I think my wife had a design, and so my wife supported me on everything, in everything I did. I would come home at 2 in the morning, I would leave at 7 in the morning. I would travel to 22 countries in a year, she allowed all that. But as I got richer, or as we got better off, and I gave her everything that she wanted in her life, she became more and more demanding. So now she says, look, office closes at 6 p.m. Are you home at 6:30 or not? You're going there. You're going to London. Oh, why are you going to London? She never questioned me about anything. She started questioning me now, and she's really giving me a hard time. And if you like, I can give you her number. She's giving me a hard time and really telling me, oh, you should be doing that, you should be doing that. And sometimes I tell her, my son's name is Rohan. My son's name is Rohan. So sometimes I tell her, look, I'm not Rohan. I'm Rohan's father. Treat me like Rohan's father. So, she's now acquired that, enough is enough. We've done everything. You don't need to really do so much. So she is really, hassling me right now and saying that, we've gone too far with all of this. Let's cool down a bit. So these are good things, is what I'm saying. She supported me in the bad time, and in the good times, she is actually having a blast and making me, miserable sometimes.
My name is Amin. I'm working as a head of business development for ready-made company. There is few businessmen, successful businessmen, at certain point, they want to get rid of the stress and everything. They sell everything, then they start enjoying. They buy yacht, then they live like 12 months, summer, something like that. Do you think you're gonna do it at certain point?
They're buying a yacht. Yeah. One needs medals. Many people accost me and say, oh, Yogi, so do you have a yacht? I said, I don't have a yacht. Are you don't have a yacht? I said, but no, I don't have a yacht. Oh, you should be having a yacht. I said, why? Because I expect with the money that you have, with where you are, you should be having a yacht. So I said, hello, I have no interest in a yacht. Oh, do you have a private jet? I said, what? Private jet? So people expect that, if you are dad, you should have the following. And these are glamour, these are medals, and I don't believe in them. I don't like them even. And if I want a yacht, I will hire it for a week. We do that. We go towards the Med. We have a small holiday. We take our friends. We do that. But, there is a great advertisement when Heineken was advertising. Heineken is a beer. And Heineken said, when you make a great beer, you don't have to make a great fuss. What it means is that if you are where you are, it's okay. You don't need to, you need to chill. It's all right. It's all right. Everything is fine. So I don't want to really profess to anybody that, you acquire. And I see many people extend themselves. They borrow towards acquiring such medals to show to their neighbor and the peer pressure. But not really. Not at all.
Good evening. My name is Suhail Shamia. I'm from Fitch Group. I have two questions for $50 for you.
Okay, $50, I'll take it.
So the first one is, let's say most of the entrepreneurs, they believe in their ambition, they follow their ambition and their gut feelings. And they don't believe that much in education. So what you did is the opposite. Is at the first, the thing is, at what age did you pursue your MBA at Harvard? And who was running the business at that time? This is the first one. The second one is, if we go back to 1990, what are you going to do differently? Thank you.
Yeah. Wow, very, very loaded questions. All these are loaded questions. I went to Harvard Business School when I was 42 years old. But I was an MBA graduate in Bombay in 1983. Okay, so when I was much younger. And then when I was 42, I got a midlife crisis. I said I got everything and I didn't have proper education, so I went to Harvard at that point. When I went away, I had an able lieutenant next in command. I set up a team. Of course, nobody believed. Everybody thought that I would come back in 3 days and I would abort that course and I would not do that. But I stuck onto it, and my company, my people, thanks to them, they're so wonderful people. They manage the whole show, and we really have some good people. Do you think I'm here hogging all the credit and I'm saying Petrochem is #1? It's all thanks to my people, my colleagues at work, my team, who are simply fantastic. So they help me a lot and doing it. But if 1990 comes back again, if I get poor again, do you know that every person, however rich he may be or she may be, always thinks that what happens if all this is gone one day? I think about that. Sometimes I get nightmares, so this is not in my control. I'm sleeping, I'm getting the nightmare and think that everything is taken away. And every time when I get these kind of nightmares, there is that image I have in my mind that that's all right. It can go. it will come back. I always wake up with that I have finished that line of nightmare in a manner that it's okay, this can happen, and we'll see, we will see. But really, that's false bravado. I think at my age, and having taken a brunt and tolerated and borne all the headaches, I think that I cannot do it the second time around. I think that I might shatter and crumble, I think. So I don't have a brave answer. Really, this is the truth. I don't think that I will survive it. I hope it doesn't happen.
You started Petrochem in 95, in the year of 95. You developed your business step by step. Okay, each step, do you have a competitor, and how you overcome this competitor, and who is your current competitor in the market?
Yeah. So, you know, there are always competition in business. And sometimes my colleagues say that, you know, oh my God, the competition has increased. We got so much competition. And I always say it's good to have competition because they keep you on your feet and they keep you honest. And otherwise, you're going to be armchair salesman. I'm ruthless with my people. And I say, you want to be selling, you know, like an idiot. You know, when you will only sell cleverly when you have competition. And market needs competition even, because at one point, way back from 1995 to 2000, we had very little competition. And we were the uncrowned kings at that time. Because what we've done very cleverly is created barriers to entry. So we had a large terminal. We had 75 chemicals to give to a particular consumer. And when you give pin to elephant to a consumer, the consumer gets dependent on you. So we made such a business plan that the customer was dependent on us. And the customer would shout and scream and say, we want to get rid of you guys, but there is no choice. We have no choice. So we have created that environment. But as the world gets smaller and as the world gets cleverer, you will always have competition. Today we have large competition. I mean, the Dow chemicals of the world, the Shell chemicals of the world are also competition, though we work with them. Competition is there in every nook and corner. And we don't want to glorify competition. We have to respect competition. And you can wish them away, they never go away. So they are inbuilt factor. They are our partners in business. They will take away some share. So they are our partners, and we should respect them as that.
What is your personality competitive advantage? What are your technical and emotional strength? This is one question. And second is, you are already MBA. So for what you got from Harvard MBA, so what extra you got from there? And why didn't you go for a job, like you were sleeping on the floor at that time? Why you didn't think to start a job, something like that? Because you are son of a businessman or something like that?
Yeah, I always thought that I will never work for anybody in my life. In my days of penury, in my days of poverty, I always thought that I will work for myself. My demeanor is such that I can't work for somebody. And that's right from the childhood. And it's, you think like that. And I thought like that. Well, if I had a second chance and I had to relive my life again, those days I would have looked for a job. Yes, I did my MBA in Bombay, but I did a part-time MBA in Bombay. I had to do it because I was working for my father and I was doing this MBA thing, so it was part-time. And it was not full-fledged. It was not very gratifying. So I wanted to go to America. So there was that small story I forgot to tell you. I wanted to go to the US to study. I graduated with distinction. And I told my father, I now want to go to America. He said, idiot, you want to go to America? Sit down here. What is this factory for? You have to run that factory. You're not going anywhere. And I was aghast. You know, I wanted to go, and he didn't allow me for the right reasons. He did what he had to do at that time. And I always wanted to go. So when I could on my own, I went, because it was always my dream. And life is all about dreams, isn't it? You want to dream. You want to do something. You know, you want to hear a good song. You want to enjoy music. You want to go for a long walk. You want to have a faluda. You want to have an ice cream. You know, you do it. You have to do it. And you should do it. So in that manner, I did my Harvard Business School also.
My name is Sam Ralamani. My friends call me Sam. Yogi and I are good friends for many, many years. I'm actually one of the biggest fans of Yogi from Dubai. Yeah. Yogi, a good question. You educated yourself. You've acquired the knowledge, the education. You had the business plan. You had a bit of luck. You had a bit of timing. You've reached the level where your business is $1 billion business. When do you go IPO? When do you go public? When do you actually expand to the next stage? Do you take that challenge, or do you keep your baby that you actually saw growing from beginning to now?
Yeah, very good question. I'd like to introduce Sam, not because he's going to pay me for it, but Sam, when I started Petrochem, my company, and I was operating from my apartment, and Sam helped me to make letterheads for my company. Sam is an engineer, he's a very qualified person, and his son, his very handsome son is there. You should be really proud of your dad, he's a great man. He's a fantastic friend, and my very good friend. So, yes, Sam, talking to you, and I was with you till 12 last night. We won't tell other people what we were doing. Yes, but seriously, you know, it's not very easy. It's not very easy to let go of something you love. IPOs. Will Petrochem go for an IPO? 100%. When the timing is right, we will float an IPO and we will offer shares of Petrochem to any and everybody. Why? One, I want to taste value. I want to pocket value. I also want to share value. And don't love a business so much that you cannibalize that business and suffocate that business. This business is to grow. In my time, another 5 or 7 years, I want to grow it to a $2 billion company. After which somebody else has to take over, somebody else has to do it, be it my son or capable people, they have to run the company. IPO is definitely an option, Sam. So we did a numerical analysis. We have companies worldwide, and many, many people are working in the company. At one point, I realized that I am accountable for more than 7,500 families which are deriving their income from Petrochem. 7,500 families, once removed, twice removed, extended, elongated, and say, so that's a large and a huge amount of commitment from my side to people I don't know, I can't touch, I can't see, but it's still a commitment. When I had nothing to lose, I didn't worry about anything. Now we have a lot to lose. First is reputation. Second is what you have created. Third is the wealth that you have amassed. If you lose all of that, it's not very easy. Because it may be easy because I have a finite life. I may live another 20 years. I'm already 54. What good am I to society when I'm more than 75? Anyways, so I have another 20 years of life. So it's very, very finite, but it's not more about myself, but it's more about the other people in the world who are dependent on Petrochem, which I'm accountable and responsible for, and I worry, and hence I worry about it. That let not this great creation go to waste. Let it not implode. Let it not unnecessarily disintegrate. We should make, it's like a baby. You tend to grow the baby. You don't want the baby to go away. So that is the case right now. I worry because I have a lot to lose.
My name is Harish. I'm a businessman. I have heard quite a few stories about rags to riches, and I'm quite, impressed by your story. The question that I have is that, in a situation where you start as a nobody and then you reach a pinnacle of success, and then for whatever reason you go down again and a crash happens. So in that situation, what advice would you want to give to somebody who would be going through that phase of getting his belief back, getting his dream back? This is one question. Secondly, is that during your early struggling days, if you can little bit elaborate on what would be or could be the breaking point up to which a person would go and then say, that's it.
Yeah, you see, in life, the good times will come and the bad times will also come. Be sure the bad times will come. They are lurking around you. Whenever you have a good time, be sure the bad times are lurking around you. It is part and parcel of life. Your wife will make you happy and your wife will make you cry. Your family will make you happy, your family will make you cry. But what in the end you feel about your family? That you can't live without them. So life is such. Life will give you these hardships. You will fall down. The first thing you do mentally is don't panic. Believe in yourself. And that belief in yourself comes from the respect that you have for yourself. You have to respect yourself. You have to believe in yourself. And you will only respect yourself if you are doing good. If you spend your time drinking alcohol, gambling away, and wasting and doing evil things, how can you respect yourself? So I'm not here to preach, I'm not holistic in that. But I'm only saying to you that if you have some way of respecting yourself, you will be fine. And hardships will come, and you should manage. When I had hardships and when I had those bad times, the only one thing I had is that my belief in myself and my faith in myself. And I also joked and told you that some of it was foolishness, because I was such an idiot, but I still believed in myself. And some part of foolishness, some intensive and intense belief in yourself will always help. And I think that never give up hope, never give up your faith in yourself and people around you. The one thing that will happen, and you test it and test it, when you are in difficulty, help will come. You see, help will come in some form or the other, by yourself, by your friends, by your colleagues, by the society, by the government. Help will come, and wait for that help. So don't panic and be patient. Thank you.
Hi. Yeah. My name is Alvin, and I'm currently an undergraduate student at Heriot Watt University.
Yes.
I'd just like to say that your life story is really inspiring. But I have one question. You said you faced a lot of challenges and you made a lot of mistakes, right? I'd just like to know, how did you overcome all these challenges? How do you overcome all these mistakes? That's what I just want to know.
So in my office, I tell people that it's okay to make mistakes, but it's not okay to repeat the mistakes. So life is about making mistakes. How much do we know? How much intelligence do we have? How much are we born with? How much experience do we have? Life is a journey, and in that journey you will get experience. When I was your age, I didn't know what I can tell you that you don't know what I know, but you are in a happy place. You're all right. Because with the knowledge that you have, that's good enough for you. But in the journey, you will acquire more knowledge, you'll acquire more experience. Imbibe that. Grow with that experience and use that experience. That experience we call logic. That experience called good sense. And good sense is very, very important. If you follow that and adapt to that, we will always do some mischief. We will always do some fun things. We will always go outside the box. But it's important to be coming back into the box. The box means that be in your parameters. Don't be out of limit. And if you hold yourself, and it's all about, as I said to the gentleman there, that it's about respecting yourself. If you respect yourself, you will conduct yourself accordingly. And as you conduct yourself accordingly, you will have a successful life, I think. So as I was saying, that when I had those challenges with me, when I was suffering and I was falling down, I was saying, I was respecting myself, even foolishly, I was respecting myself and saying, I'll get up, tomorrow will be another day, it'll be fine tomorrow. And but I didn't have another choice. I didn't have a choice. And there is no point in complaining to people who are not going to listen to you, especially when you've done wrong things. So you have to learn and improvise yourself, and you have to, what I keep saying to you is, continue to have the faith and belief in yourself, and you will be fine.
When you reach a crossroad in your life, and you have a family, you have to make difficult decisions, are you an advocate of taking big risks and taking the leap into the unknown, or do you avoid risks and stay in your situation? Some people say if you can't risk everything, then it's not worth it. What do you believe?
Oh no, taking such risks is called gambling, and you can lose your life doing that. Calculated risks, on the other hand, are very good. You have to take calculated risk. What is a calculated risk? A risk is that you're going into the unknown, but considering that you may fall down and you're going well prepared. That's called a calculated risk. How do you take a calculated risk? You count the ups and downs. You count the pluses and minuses before you step into the unknown. You have to step into the unknown. Good wealth and good value is created by going into unknown. Why do people go to Nigeria? Why do people go to Africa's and developing countries? Why in the past people went to India to do business? Because those were the developing areas where there was more challenge, more unknowns, more risk, and more rewards. So the risk-reward factor needs to be considered and not to be risked unnecessarily. You don't want to go into a war zone and say, I'll parachute myself into a war zone and let me see whether a bomb hits me or not. What are you talking about? You can die doing that. So you have to be very, very careful, but still take risks. So those are called, take calculated risks in your life and you'll be fine. You may fall down, but you have to get up. Thank you. My business has got a lot of challenges currently. We are, as I said, in a hostile environment where demand is reducing and costs are going up because our company has almost become like a white elephant right now. Huge costs, huge overheads. Because we have a platform, we are meant to do big things and larger things. But if the market reduces, then we are equipped to do that, but there's no opportunity. So we are suffering for opportunity at this time. We are patient. We understand what is going on. As you can see, I'm publicly aware and elaborating to you that these are the challenges of my company. My company still churns money, it still is profitable, and it still sees the light at the end of the tunnel, but not without its challenges. We have sessions. I have such sessions where I sit in front of my company people and I do classes for different segments of people. And many people ask me, sir, you're so worried. Will we get our salary next month? So, you know, you have to deal with these things. And frankness and honesty will always pay. Transparency will always pay. But I can be transparent, but I have to take mitigative measures to circumvent these problems. So we are creating new verticals. We are going into downward integration. We are going into equity participation with other companies. We are going to new areas. So we're doing all this. It takes time. So we will have a poor year even in 2014, but it's already factored. And in 2015, we should be running 100 miles an hour. I'm very optimistic.
Yeah, it seems like in the next 20 years, United States and Australia will become oil producer. If that's in the next 20 or 25 years. Would that be a huge impact on the region and on your business as well?
Are you saying what will happen to the US, you said?
No, like in the news now, in news reports that the US is moving to become independent from oil imports from the Middle East?
No, not at all. No. See, politics and geopolitics will always play a part. The US economy is a deficit economy.
Okay.
When I say deficit, some of you know it. Deficit economy is an economy that's dependent on borrowing. Yeah. And that's a very good model. That means that it's a consumer. That means that it will always make other economies positive because they are buyers and they are the superpowers of the world and they will always do well and they will always. The Middle East has nothing to worry. We've got oil here. So I don't want to go into that kind of politics, but to give you a simple answer, geopolitics are there currently. There are tensions around in the Middle East, and that is a fact of life for so many years. But there is some wisdom, there is some maturity, there is some solution which seems imminent now. But I'm a nobody. I really can't comment on that intelligently. Sorry.
All right, thank you.
In 1990, you had a plan to start a company, and you went with your cousin, brother, to a company and met your business partner. So suppose that had not been the case, what approach did you have in mind to meet business partners?
Suppose I wouldn't have met that person.
Yeah,
I don't know. My life would have been very different. So my wife many times tells me that, oh, we came to Dubai. What happened if we would have gone to London? What happened? Why did we not go to London? Why did we not go to America? Why did we come to Dubai? And if we had gone to the US at that time, what would have been our life? Life is all about unknowns. Life is all about chances. Life is all about things that happen. And you take your chance and say, right, Dubai it is, so I'm in Dubai. And it's that small company that I became a partner. I could have got fed up. Nobody would have given me a business opportunity. I would have been an employee, and I would have been somewhere in life. But that's not happened. That has not happened. So life, those ifs and buts are there, but I have no answer to that. I had two options at that time when I had a smaller opportunity with somebody else. I had also a foodstuff opportunity. That's why I was selling the foodstuff items. I thought that I will do a foodstuff business rather than the chemical business because I was not getting any opportunity. But it did not come to that. I had a plan B and a plan C. Sometimes the plan B becomes a plan A. So I always had, I had a plan B, but thank God that the plan B, it didn't come to that. I didn't have to go to the plan B at all. Yeah, but it's good to have a couple of plans. It is true.
Good evening, Yogi. My
Hello.
name is George Yusuf.
Hello.
We talked earlier about leadership, whether a leader is born or if they're made. My question's regarding what you look for in a leader. So you've got a global presence with your organisation. Do you find the characteristics of leaders in this region different to those in Asia-Pac and so forth?
Yeah, there are always cultural differences in leaders. If you go to China or Taiwan, those leaders are very silent. Those leaders are not very boisterous, vociferous, or extroverts like what you see in me. If you go to India, and Indian leaders, they talk like me. They almost look like me, and they talk a lot. And leaders are of all kinds. But you can see a leader, you can sense a leader, you can feel a leader. But they come in as different demographies, as there's a whole diaspora of leaders in the world. You see Richard Branson. You heard of him? Richard Branson? He's very brash. He's very brash, but I love his style. It's fantastic. Bill Gates is a leader. He's very quiet. So Steve Jobs was a leader. He was very eloquent, and he talked about his product, his company, his pride. So there are different ways of Mao Tse-tung was a leader, very quiet. So, you know, the different countries, different parts of the world, you know, they have leaders who are unsung heroes. Florence Nightingale is a leader, right? Florence Nightingale, the nurse to the world, if you know. She was, you know, Mother Teresa, leader. But, you know, what dress did she wear? How? So leaders come in different garbs. You know, sometimes, I used to know one guy, he used to drive me around in the car, and I thought he was a great leader. I thought he was a solid guy. I thought because he was always spick and span, nice managed, always happy, always good news, always he had a story to tell, and he made my journeys very pleasant, and I think he was a great leader.
Well, first, I also wanted to thank all of you. I mean, we had a vision of creating an event that would be available for all people, all walks of life, irrespective of what school, what country, what social status you were. A lot of the times when someone like Mr. Mehta speaks, it's at the Capitol Club, or it's an exclusive event where you have to pay to come. So we wanted to create a free one. And of course, it would never be possible without Mr. Yogesh Mehta, who actually took the time to be the launch of this community event, and sacrificing your time to come down. 1 hour to come here, 2 hours to talk, and hopefully your trip back won't be as long.
No, Shane, I'm very happy to be here, and I like what you do, and I'm actually your follower, and you do, well, we had this big lunch, and I was really impressed. I forgot to tell you that, but I wanted to tell this publicly, that I'm very impressed with what you do. Oh. You're a good guy.
Thank you so much.
And lastly, folks, I must tell you about yourselves. You have sat here for 2 hours and you're listening, and I see some of your eyes, and I was noticing that because it's part of what I do. And you were there in great earnest listening to what we were talking about. I hope it helps your life. I hope that there is some learning in that. And the big learning is about humility. The big learning is about you. It is okay for you to make mistakes. It's okay to fall down. But remember to get up, then walk, then run, and hopefully fly. Because there is a winner in all and each one of you, just like there is a winner in me. And we are all winners here. Cheers.